Hello and welcome to another Divinity Original Sin video. This is a beginner friendly guide to character creation screen and how to build a necromancer. We're going to go over good choices for races, gear, attribute stats, build presets, so on and so forth. So let's get straight into the video. So which races make for a good necromancer? So for me, there is a clear and obvious best choice, but some honorable mentions. Ifan Benmez and Losa make for okay necromancers simply because of the ingenious talent, critical chance, and critical multiplier. The encourage comes in handy. Not a game breaking ability, but it's quite nice to have one party member with it at least. Thane can also make a pretty decent necromancer, but to be honest, he makes a pretty decent anything. And the big reason for that is the time warp, but I feel like it could be utilized better somewhere else here. But Thane on anything is game breaking because of time warp alone, but he also does come with the ingenious talent as well. But for me personally, Sibyl makes the best necromancer for so many reasons. She is head and shoulders above anybody else. The reasons why she makes such a good necromancer. Well, flesh sacrifice first and foremost. It increases her damage and it's multiplicative because it's caster. Gets the extra AP for that, but also she creates a blood surface for herself, which is highly convenient when you're using blood spells for elemental affinity. So already there's so much super value for her to be in a necromancer. On a slightly lesser point, break the shackles. There's a lot of horrible elements here that she can just remove. If you're playing glass cannon, this is particularly useful for when enemies have shackles of pain because you can instantly remove it. But this is only a minor thing. The big draw is the flesh sacrifice and the fact that she can get elemental affinity wherever she moves. The build preset. Now this has a bearing on a couple of things inside of the game. As you can see, the items they are holding changes with each build preset. So we are currently running the cleric, so she is holding a shield and I think that's a mace. Which basically means that inside of the chest on the Merryweather you're going to see a shield and a mace based on the presets. The other thing this determines is inside of the game, when it comes to recruiting party members, they all have specific presets which you can choose from. So if you were to choose the cleric preset when recruiting a character, you're going to pick up the cleric with these spells here. So looking through, seeing that this is a physical party, I think that the cleric preset probably makes the most sense. And also we want to be holding a shield at level 1, it's kind of nice. So the attributes. Strength and finesse is probably something that you're not really going to be investing that much into, so I would completely ignore them. The only time that you would even contemplate putting a point into these is to meet requirements for armor. That is the only time you would consider it. Other than that, you're going to be putting points into your primary damage stats, which is going to be intelligence. Now, playing Sibyl with a shield is pretty awkward because flesh sacrifice reduces your constitution, so you've got a few alternatives. Don't play with a shield, which is a lot better throughout the game. But if you do want to play with a shield, which I don't really recommend, you're going to need to keep your constitution at a level where the reduction from the flesh sacrifice is not going to cause you to drop it. But personally, what you're better off doing it throughout the game is, particularly around level 9 onwards, you're better off grabbing a two-handed weapon. But early game, when you're struggling for spells, etc., it's not a terrible thing to have the constitution for a shield, for bouncing shield. But that's the only real use it would have, to be honest. But yeah, typically you're just going to be wanting to max your intelligence as high as possible. Memory, being a mage, you will need a few more spells, so understandably you will be putting points into memory as and when you need it, but the general rule is that you want to be minimizing the amount of points you put into memory, because you're taking points away from a damage stat. Wit is a secondary dump stat. Intelligence you want to max out first, and then after that you want to put points into wits to increase your critical chance. In terms of your abilities from the very beginning of the game, there is a number of ways you can go. To be quite honest, there's no right or wrong answer. In my opinion, you could go Warfare, Hydro, or Necro, and I think you're going to be absolutely fine. Personally, I just like from the ship, perhaps just to go Hydro and Necro. Civil abilities doesn't matter too much. Therefore, I'm not really going to get into that side of the game. In terms of building your character throughout the game, Warfare is going to be your primary damage stat. Of course, you will sprinkle points here and there for skills that you want. Once you've maxed your Warfare, which could be around level 9, level 10, around that point depending on how much you gear your character, you could go Huntsman, Scoundrel, or there's a two-handed option. Personally, at level 9, I think the best choice after Warfare is to go points into Huntsman. Reason being is it increases all damage whilst you're on high ground by 5%, so it effectively does the same, almost in simplest terms, it does the same job as Warfare, only it only applies on high ground. And also you have to bear in mind, at this point in the game, you're not really going to have that much in terms of critical chance. When it comes to gearing your character, the stats that you should really be looking out for to increase your damage should be Warfare, Huntsman, Scoundrel, two-handed. Obviously you'll need to a few points into Necromancer and maybe Hydrosophist at later points in the game to meet requirements for spells. But in terms of damage, Warfare, Huntsman, Scoundrel, and two-handed are your friends. Also, you should be looking at intelligence and wits as well. So, this is one option of how to build from the very beginning. I think this is more beginner friendly. I personally would be looking at Restoration, Decaying Touch, and Mosquito Swarm, and the reason why I think this is particularly friendly for beginners is you have a way of self-sustaining for Mosquito Swarm. You have Decaying Touch, which allows you to use Restoration offensively as well as defensively. If you need to heal yourself, you can do it. If you want to use it to do damage, you can do it because of Decaying Touch. In terms of talents, there's a good number of talents you can start the game with. There's Glass Cannon is a good option. Elemental Affinity is a good option. Perhaps not at the beginning, but maybe level 3. As you develop into level 4, then it becomes really good because you have a lot more spells available to you. But for the most part, Glass Cannon is going to be the best choice. So that concludes our video. I hope this was very helpful. This build is to be used inside of a physical party, considering that it does physical damage. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.